Interpolation ho nitong si Senator Rodante Marcoleta doon sa nagdaang privilege speech nitong si Senator Kiko Pangilinan ang ating pag-uusapan dito sa video na to. Pero bago yan, isang like at isang subscribe. Masaya na ho tayo dyan at sa mga gusto sumali sa ating community, yung join button nandyan lang ho sa baba. Re-recta ho kagad tayo dyan sa sagutan nitong si Senator Rodante Marcoleta at nitong si Kiko Maching. Ito na ho ang buong video. Game!
Questions from this representation. Mr. President,
Yan. Sako, matindi ho ito.
in the sponsorship speech of the Honorable Senator from Pampanga and Quezon City, he said that the resolution will signal our resolve to prevent China from claiming 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone. I'd like to ask the gentleman, Mr. President, where did he get his data of 500,000 square kilometers?
Yes, Mr. President, the data was taken from the computations based on the Philippines 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone, Mr. President, and juxtaposed with the claim of China in the 10-dash line, wherein about 90% of the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, is being claimed by them.
Mr. President, is the gentleman aware that there is a post from the National Security Council of the Philippines saying that our West Philippine Sea is approximately 381,000 square kilometers?
300,000 square kilometers, Mr. President. Are they referring to our exclusive economic zone or our territorial sea, or maybe be clarified?
Our exclusive economic zone with respect to the West Philippine Sea, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I'd like to clarify. I'd like to be clarified rather, because the data that was provided us by the advisors to the Philippine delegation to the to the Hague, the International Arbitral Tribunal, provided the amount of approximately about 500,000 square kilometers. So we will have to clarify that. We would like to be clarified, Mr. President, as to the data. But having said that, assuming it's 345,000 square kilometers, that is still double, pretty much, or almost more than, or close to double, our land mass. In other words, it is a huge amount of exclusive economic zone being claimed by China. That we have sovereign rights over our territorial sea, as well as we have exclusive rights over our exclusive economic zone, which includes, as the gentleman has mentioned, at least from his data, 360,000 plus square kilometers. Mas malaki pa sa ating lupain. Kaya hindi maaari nating hayaan na lamang na aangkinin at ng ibang bansa, lalo na ang China.
Mr. President, I'm making this clarification because I would like to believe that the resolution is particularly related to our claim in the South China Sea, part of which is now being called the West Philippine Sea. According to the National Security Council, our exclusive economic zone in relation to that is only 381,000 square kilometers. And that is the principal interest in relation to the sponsorship speech in connection with the resolution under consideration, Mr. President. I would like to correct that because the 500,000 does not exist, Mr. President, because, as I will discuss later, in Magaliano versus Ermita, this is a jurisprudence that was penned in relation to the conflicting maritime area in Republic Act 3046 and Republic Act 9522. Our Supreme Court had the opportunity, Mr. President, of adjudicating that our total exclusive economic zone, not only in the West Philippine Sea but in the other rest of the world, is only 382,669. This is already in the jurisprudence, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. We are currently securing the information that was relayed to us by Justice Carpio, and therefore, assuming for the sake of argument that it is 345,000 square kilometers, it does not remove the fact that that is a huge amount of our economic zone that is being aggressively taken over by China.
Yeah.
The only reason, Mr. President, that I'm trying to specify the exact area of our exclusive economic zone, because the next question is, would the Honorable Senator agree that in law, a claim to land or waters must be defined by metes and bounds?
Mr. President, with the indulgence of the good senator, we already have an arbitrary ruling in our favor. So the metes and bounds is no longer debatable. The arbitral ruling has awarded the Philippines and recognized our claim vis-a-vis China. It has rejected China's 9-line, 10-line, 9-line claim and has upheld the Philippines' position that what China is doing within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines is illegal. And therefore, the debate as to whether there are metes and bounds is moot. We can debate until kingdom come, but that will not change the arbitral ruling in our favor, Mr. President.
That is not entirely correct, Mr. President, and I beg to disagree. The reason why I'm asking the gentleman for the metes and bounds to our claim on our maritime rights is because until today, I would like to believe that there has not been any specific computation or coordinates of the West Philippine Sea. I'd like to ask if is the limit of our exclusive economic zone is specifically the 200 nautical miles from our archipelagic baseline, or is it provided under Administrative Order Number 29, the westernmost boundary of the Calayan Island Group, as defined under Presidential Decree 5096, or is it defined under Republic Act 9522 of 2009, or Republic Act Number 12064 of 2024? The question, Mr. President, is very significant because we would like to specifically determine the extent of our West Philippine Sea. Because if we are unable to do that, baka mahirapan po tayong ipagtanggol hanggang saan ang sa atin.
Yeah.
So can we at least have an answer?
Mr. President, hindi na natin kailangang ipagtanggol ang nasa atin. Napagpasahan na ng International Arbitral Tribunal. There is nothing to defend. It has been resolved in our favor. What we have to now defend and uphold is the ruling.
Mr. President, I think the gentleman from Pampanga and Quezon City is looking at the arbitral award as it is. I'm not saying that, of course, we won the EEZ, but it is still incumbent for our country, Mr. President, to define our West Philippine Sea. Because until now, as we will discuss later with the indulgence of the gentleman, we need to look at the coordinates, Mr. President. I'm only asking whether the basis of the West Philippine Sea is the 200 nautical miles from the archipelagic baselines. Because as the defense establishment say it, Mr. President, it is the approximation of our exclusive economic zone. Our exclusive economic zone is 200 nautical miles from our archipelagic baseline. So, can we assume that, are we proceeding from there? Or are we defining the extent of our WPS from Executive or Administrative Order Number 29, Presidential Decree 5096, Republic Act 9522, o Republic Act 12064? Kasi kailangan po natin ma-define muna, Mr. President. Totoo po na ang arbitral award, in-invalidate po yung 9-dash line. Tama po yun. Pero hanggang doon lang, hindi naman sinabi ng arbitral award kung hanggang saan ang hangganan ng ating West Philippine Sea. That's why I am asking the gentleman kung alam po niya kung saan tayo magsisimula para sa ganon, i-determine natin, i-ascertain natin ang extent ng ating West Philippine Sea.
Yes, if I may reiterate, Mr. President, we see the point being raised by Senator Marcoleta. He mentioned Administrative Order Number 29, which defines the West Philippine Sea. It was issued in 2012. On the other hand, in addition, we have the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, or Republic Act Number 12064, enacted in 2024. These are government records that recognize the West Philippine Sea in official documents, and under the UNCLOS, which grants the Philippines the EEZ extending to up to 200 nautical miles from its coastline. This is the law. There is an administrative order, and of course there is UNCLOS. It is the it is the position of this representation, Mr. President, that all three, UNCLOS, Administrative Order Number 29, issued in 2012, and Republic Act 12064, enacted in 2024, are sufficient to be able to establish our exclusive economic zone as well as our territorial sea, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, if the answer is that Administrative Order Number 29, which is the westernmost boundary of the Kalayaan Island Group, as defined under Presidential Decree 1596, is the very source of our determination of the West Philippine Sea,
Together with, Mr. President, the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, taken in conjunction with. So it's the AO 29 as well as RA 12064 and finally UNCLOS.
yes, Mr. President, isa-isa lang natin. Doon muna tayo sa Administrative Order Number 29, which confirmed Presidential Decree 1596. Mr. President, under PD 1596, President Marcos Sr. drew boundaries around certain features of this Spratly Island and called the enclosed area as Kalayaan Island Group. At that time, there was no exclusive economic zone yet under the UNCLOS. However, is the Honorable Senator aware that in 2016, the South China Sea Arbitral Tribunal declared the boundaries of the Kalayaan Island Group as contrary to the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea?
Well, Mr. President, I'm not familiar with the particular findings, but that is, to me, again, immaterial in the context of the award of the International Tribunal.
That will be immaterial, Mr. President, with all due respect. Kasi nga po talagang sinisino natin, dinidetermine natin. Kung gagamitin po natin yung Presidential Decree 1596, sabi po ng Arbitral Tribunal, contrary po yun sa UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. Basahin po ninyo yung Arbitral Award. Nandun po yun sa paragraphs 573 to paragraphs 576. Sabi po niya, China and the Philippines has no right to enclose the Spratly Islands with the system of archipelagic or straight baselines, as though there is a single group islands or an offshore archipelago. Yun po yung sinabi. Kaya nga po, I am pointing this out, hindi natin magagamit yung 1596, not even Administrative Order 29. Kung sasabihin naman po natin, Mr. President, yung 9522, nabanggit nila, is the Honorable Senator aware that Republic Act 9522 merely defined the Philippine archipelagic baseline from which to measure the territorial sea, exclusive economic zone, and continental shelf. Yun lang po ang ginawa ng 9522. Wala po siyang kinalaman in the determination of the exact area of the West Philippine Sea. Na-define lang po yung mga baselines natin para doon natin kwentahin yung ating territorial sea, yung ating exclusive economic zone, at saka yung ating continental shelf. Alam natin, ang EEZ at saka continental shelf, 200 nautical miles from the baseline. Territorial sea is 12 nautical miles from the baseline. Ngayon po, Mr. President, kung halimbawa ay babanggitin natin ang Republic Act 12064, ito po yung 2024 law, ang may problema po ito Section 2 of Republic Act number 12064 defines the West Philippine Sea as follows. The maritime zones of the Philippines on the western side of the Philippine archipelago, including the Luzon Sea and the territorial seas of Bajo de Masinloc and the maritime features of the Kalayaan Island Group, shall collectively called the West Philippine Sea. Ano pong problema nito, Mr. President, Your Honor? Based on that definition, would the Honorable Senator agree that the westernmost limits has two elements? Yung 200 nautical mile limit of the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf, and the 12 nautical limit of the enclave territorial sea of high tide elevations of Kalayaan Island Group, including those outside the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone. Hindi rin po natin magagamit yung 200 nautical mile limit, Mr. President. Bakit po? Alam po ba ng ating honorable gentleman from Pampanga and Quezon City na pag ginamit po natin yung West Philippine Sea na 200 nautical mile limit ng ating exclusive economic zone, 17 features po ng Kalayaan Island Group ang mawawala sapagkat wala po siya. Hindi siya na-enclose ng 200 nautical miles. Alam din po ba ng ating honorable senator that four of those features would fall outside the definition of the West Philippine Sea as occupied by the Philippines. Ito pong apat na ito ay okupado na ng ating bansa. Ngunit wala po siya sa 200 nautical miles eh. Katulad po ng Pag-asa na tinatawag na Tito Island. It's 227 nautical miles to Palawan. Parola or Northeast K, Northeast K, 240.2 nautical miles to Palawan.
I don't see the...
Kota or Laita Island is 207 nautical miles to Palawan. And Lakiam K, 203.7 nautical miles to Palawan. Are you aware, Mr. President, that these features are separated by high seas? Ito pa pong problema eh. Kaya po nagiging importante.
Yari si Kiko Pangilinan dito. Hindi ho niya anticipated na ganito karaming mga detalye ang hawak-hawak ni Senator Rodante Marcoleta. Akala ko siguro ni Kiko Pangilinan madadaan ho niya itong si Senator Dante Marcoleta na moat na yung usapin na kung hanggang saan ba ang i-claim natin dyan sa West Philippine Sea na yan dahil nanalo tayo sa arbitral ruling kaya hindi na kailangan kung yung pagsukat na sinasabi nitong si Senator Dante Marcoleta. Naku, iniisa-isa na ho ni Sen Dante yung mga detalye kaya naman itong si Kiko napapatawag na sa kanyang mga staff.
Na kailangan po natin munang pag-aralan hanggang saan eksakto pong coordinates ba ng ating West Philippine Sea. Dito po sa binabanggit nating mga batas sa ngayon, kung titingnan natin, hindi po natin sila magagamit, Mr. President. Kaya napakahirap po ngayon nating sagupain yung mga pananaw na parang may nag-aangkin ng atin pero hindi pa natin ma-define kung ano talaga yung atin. Kaya po dito ako nagsisimula, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may be allowed, again, I don't see the point. Are we trying to say here that the arbitral ruling was erroneous and therefore we should stop claiming what was awarded us?
Walang nagsasalita ng gano'n. Ito naman si Kiko Maching eh. Yan ang problema sa inyo eh. Pagka kinukontra ang mga argumento nyo, kagad na pinanlalaban nyo, hindi na natin ikukunin yung atin? Ibabasura natin yung arbitral ruling? Hindi naman. Sinasabi lang ni Senator Rodante Marcoleta para mas maging solido ang ating mga argumento dyan sa usapin ng West Philippine Sea. Ayusin natin yung ating yung ating mga detalye, yung ating mga posibleng panghawakan kung sakaling magkagipitan, di ba? O ito ang arbitral ruling. Ito yung batas na ipinasa sa amin sa Pilipinas. Ganito kalaki ang West Philippine Sea, amin yan. Tapos ang usapan. Pero yung nagsisigaw-sigaw kayo, ginagamit nyo sa pamumulitika nyo yung West Philippine Sea. Ika nga dahil nag-a-apply kayo kay Uncle Sam na maging potential na candidate nila sa 2020. Napakapangit naman ho ata niyan, Senator Kiko Pangilinan.
I don't see the logic, Mr. President. We were awarded by the arbitral tribunal. It is ours. Now, is the gentleman saying the tribunal...
Isa pang problema dito, doon sa tribunal, doon sa pag-award sa atin, hindi nakipagpartisipa ang hindi nakipagpartisipa ang Chine. Parang ang dating, yung tribunal tayo nagbayad diyan sa mga abogado, tayo lahat nagbayad diyan. In-award sa atin, tayo nagbayad doon sa mga abogado, tayo diyan sa tribunal na yan. At tayo lang din naman yung claimant. Doon sa mga claimant, walang ibang sumali dyan sa usapin na yan, dyan sa tribunal na yan, Pilipinas lang. Kung gusto natin magkaroon ng maayos na usapan, lahat ng mga bansa na mayroong claim sa West Philippine Sea, lahat dapat kasali dyan. Hindi yung pupunta tayo sa tribunal, tapos Pilipinas lang. Imbitahin natin yung ibang mga bansa, doon natin pag-usapan. Doon sa mayroong third party na magiging parehas sa lahat ng partido, kung kanino nga yan. Hindi yung tipong anak ng toka. Parang ganito ho yan mga kababayan. Yung barangay captain, nanay mo. Yan. Tapos yung kapitbahay mo at ikaw, meron kayong problema. Ngayon, nagsumbong ka sa nanay mo. Sa tingin nyo, ngayon, di ba, dapat pagkaayusin yan, pati yung kalaban mo, dapat magkasundo kayo na dalhin natin yan sa barangay. Tayong dalawa, mag-usap tayo, punta tayo doon. Anak ng tawa, tayo nagbayad doon sa mga abogado, tayo nagbayad doon sa pag-aaral, basically, binili natin yung desisyon. Hindi, real talk na lang ha. Wala ko tayong ibang doon sa tribunal. Atin naman talaga. Wala namang question doon. Meron tayong sovereign rights na mangisda dyan sa West Philippines. Pero hindi wala tayong sovereignty ha. Hindi sovereign rights at sovereignty dalawang magkaibang bagay yan. Itong mga kampon ng mga pinklawan at dilawan, pinagmimekos-mekos nila yan, pinag-aalam nila yung damdamin ng ating mga kababayan at kumbaga iniimbitahan nilang magalit sa bansang China na mali naman ang dahilan, okay? Di ko sinasabing huwag kayong magalit. By all means, kung gusto magalit kayo, walang problema dyan. Walang problema. Pero bago kayo magalit, siyasatin muna natin maigi kung ano ba ang ating kinagagalitan. Di ba? Ganun lang naman ho simple yun. Kaya wag ho kayong basta-basta magpadala dito sa mga pinklawan at dilawan.
That was mistaken and therefore what was awarded to us should not have been awarded to us because of these problematic well, at least from the point of view of the good senator, problematic definition of what the West Philippine Sea is. I beg to disagree, Mr. President. Besides, the arbitral ruling did not touch on the issues being raised today by the good senator. And even if it did, assuming it did, hypothetically, we were still awarded, and we were our claim and our rights were recognized, and China's rights were rejected. Are we saying here now, Mr. President, that we have to go back to the arbitral ruling, to the tribunal, present a new definition of what constitutes West Philippine Sea so that they can amend?
Wala pong West Philippine Sea, ha? South China Sea ho yan. Wala pa ho sa mapa ng mundo na ang lugar na yan ay West Philippine Sea. Magkaliwanagan tayo. Di ko kinakampihan dito yung kung kaninong partido pa lang. Pero iniiwasan ho natin dito na magamit yung mga ganyang klaseng usapin para pag-alawin ang damdamin ng ating mga kababayan sa maling kadahilanan. Okay? Wala akong problema atin yan. Nanalo tayo sa arbitral ruling. Ha? Sinabi na atin yan. Atin, walang problema. Pero ang tanong, sino kumikilala? Kung sinasabi natin atin yan, sinasabi nilang kanila yan, ngayon pinangangalandakan natin yung arbitral ruling, hindi nila sinamahan, magkakaproblema talaga tayo dyan. Gusto niya wala nang usapan, i-enforce na lang natin yung arbitral ruling. Ano tayo mga siraulo? Di ko sinasabing hindi i-enforce. Kumbaga yung mga pinagbasihan dyan sa arbitral ruling na yan, yung international law of the sea o kung ano pa mga naging basihan ng tribunal kung bakit inonor o tayong kinikilala na tayong may karapatan. Yung sovereign rights dyan sa West Philippine Sea na yan. O kung tawagin sa mapa, West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. Diba? Tayo lang kumikilala eh. Paano yun? O tanungin natin yung Vietnam, yung Indonesia, yung Thailand, yung Malaysia, Taiwan, lahat ng merong claim. Sinasabi rin natin na claim na meron tayong claim dun sa mga inookupa nilang mga reefs dyan sa South China Sea. Tanungin natin sila kung kinikilala nila yung ang arbitral ruling. Kung kinikilala nila, ba't di pa natin paalisin? Yung Vietnam, Taiwan, doon sa mga sinasabing ho nilang teritoryo. Kukulit nila, hindi teritoryo. Di ba? Ba't di pa natin sila paalisin? Ba't di natin isubo sa bunganga ng bansang Vietnam, Taiwan, Malaysia, yung arbitral ruling na yan? Pati Sabah, kunin na natin. Anak ng tawa. Sabah lang ni Laila de Lima nakuha nyo, mga walang yan.
Or they can set aside the award? Please, I would appreciate being clarified.
Let me clarify, Mr. President. Are we getting the impression that the West Philippine Sea was awarded to us by the arbitral tribunal on a silver platter? Sinabi po niya kung nasaan yung ating mga coordinates?
Well, Mr. President,
Tayo po ay merong entitlement sa 200...
Again, Mr. President, assuming that these have to be defined, I think we can define that by Philippine law. Assuming, I'm without conceding that there is no definition because we believe that it has been properly defined, and the maritime base. Oh, we were not in the Senate then, but
Both of you were not the Senate, but we already discussed it. We had the big billboard. Mr. President, may I, Mr. President?
The majority leader.
With indulgence to those who were not
With the permission
here.
of course,
With the permission of the two gentlemen.
Senators Pangilinan and Rodante Mac.
Yes, for the indulgence of our colleagues who were not here, the 19th Congress, namely Senator Pangilinan, yourself, Mr. President Pro Tempore, the Senate President, and Senator Marcoleta. We had a long discussion on the floor approving the baseline, Philippine Baseline Maritime Zones Act. Dalawang batas yung pinasa ni Senator Tolentino, who was also the majority leader at the time. And I can clearly recall he would always perform his explanation on the middle podium with a blackboard, whiteboard rather, with a map. Pinapakita niya, pure like a teacher, like a professor, showing the map of the Philippines and what it covers. So meron na po tayong approved and signed by the President a Republic Act on these two measures. It was the Philippine Baseline Law and the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes. So maybe the two gentlemen can look into these two laws to see the exact coordinates that we approved as a law, as laws. This is Republic Act number 12065 and 12064.
With the permission of the three gentlemen, the Senate President is recognized.
With the permission of the gentlemen, because this will be an interjection, just not really to join the conundrum, but Mr. President, may I ask a question? Yung ban China, meron silang coordinates? Yung 9-dash line nila? Wala eh. Tayo nga, may baseline eh. May baseline, 10-dash line na. Oh,
Naku, yan
may coordinates ba?
Si Dante.
Wala eh.
Tulungan
Tayo nga,
ng
may
mga-
baseline
Yung mga graduate sa Wambul
survey
University.
law eh. Sila wala eh. Kung ano mangkinin kanila eh. So, I want to find out where are the coordinates of China in the West Philippine Sea.
Mr. President, may I request that pakiano nyo ngayong number 3?
Napakakalmado ni Sen Dante.
Yung
Mr.
South
President,
China
while-
Yung mga kadibate niya medyo nagiging agresibo na kagaya nitong si One Ball at nitong si Kiko Maching. Medyo agresibo na yung mga kalaban niya.
While we're doing some administrative matters, just for the record, because earlier our data or our assertion that about 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone and territorial sea and sovereign waters is being claimed. This was a lecture by retired Supreme Court Justice Carpio in his paper, West Philippine Sea Lecture, in the Philippine Social Science Council. Hosted it February 2016, and I quote his, for the Philippines, what is at stake in the South China Sea are, number one, about 80% of its EEZ, comprising 381,000 square kilometers of maritime space, including the entire Reed Bank and part of the Malampaya gas field, and number two, 100% of its exclusive continental shelf, estimated at over 150,000 square kilometers of maritime space. Either the Philippines keeps this, and I quote, maritime entitlements, or we lose them to China, according to the retired justice. And he added, effectively, China's 9-dash line claim encroaches on over 531,000 square kilometers of Philippine EEZ and continental shelf, including all the fishery, oil, gas, and mineral resources found within this vast area, which is larger than the total land area of the Philippines. This Chinese aggression, according to Chief former Justice Carpio, is the gravest external threat to the Philippines since World War II.
Mr. President, ang binanggit niya kanina ay pinagsama-sama po niya yung exclusive economic zone at saka yung continental shelf. Talaga po nga abot kayo ng 500,000 square kilometers. Ang pinag-uusapan po natin, exclusive economic zone lang. Kaya po
Mr.
tayo
President.
nakukumpyos. Kanina po tinatanong kung merong coordinates ang China. Ayan po yung mapa ng China. Makikita po ninyo yung 6.1. Kapag yan po ay tiningnan ninyo at pinag-aralan po ninyo yan, yan po ay nakatala doon sa International Hieroglyphics Organization or S23. Lahat po ng coordinates nandyan. Kaya nga po pinoproblema natin, hanggang ngayon, wala pa po tayong ganyan.
Yan.
Sana man lang yung West Philippine Sea, kapag ka lahat po ng kailangan ng United Nations, kasi bago po tayo makapagpatala ng ating sariling pangalan ng dagat, katulad ng West Philippine Sea, hindi lamang po declaration ang kailangan natin eh. Nagdi-declare tayo ng 200 nautical miles. Hindi naman po tayo nagdi-deposit ng mapa na may coordinates doon sa United Nations.
Yan.
Wala pong mangyayari. Yun po yung proseso eh.
Kumbaga sinasabi lang dito ni Senator Rodante Marcoleta, kung talagang gusto nating i-solidify ang ating claim dyan, yung mga necessary step, gawin natin. Hindi yung atin ito na tayo ng atin ito, hindi natin yung ginagawa yung mga karampatang proseso, para tayo mga siraulo. Hira.
Tingnan po ninyo yan. 6.1 yan po yung South China Sea. Hindi po ninyo makikita ang West Philippine Sea. Kaya po tayo nagtatalo dahil yung ating West Philippine Sea kailanman hindi mag-a-appear dyan hanggat hindi po nagagawa ni Commodore Tariela yung dapat niyang gawin. Imbes na gawa na siya ng gawa ng caricature, dapat mag-submit na siya nung mga coordinates na kailangan po para ngayon makapagpatala tayo ng sarili nating pangalan ng dagat. Ito nga po kaya ko kahit napakahirap, ay gusto nating pag-aralang mabuti kasi dito po nagkakaroon ng hindi pagkakaunawaan. Nakala natin may nangunguha ng saang ganang atin, samantalang yung sa ganang atin, hindi pa naman natin alam kung hanggang saan ba siya. Ang maganda sana, yung talagang exact coordinates, makukuha natin. Pero paano po natin magagawa, Mr. President? Ino-occupy natin, for example, yung munisipyo ng Pag-asa. Labas yun sa ating exclusive economic zone. Paano natin guguhitan yun halimbawa? Labas sa ating exclusive economic zone, samantalang yung Pag-asa, nandun na sa high seas. Hindi po pwede mangyayari, Mr. President, because that is violative of the UNCLOS. Hindi po tayo pwedeng tumahak sa high seas. At magliliprad po siya from the exclusive economic zone para enclose niya lamang, for example, yung Parola, yung Tito, yung sinabi nating 4 kanina na bahagi na inoccupy ng ating bansa, ngunit labas po ng exclusive economic zone. Paano ngayon yun? Eh di kapag ka sinabi natin, we were awarded our exclusive economic zone, o umalis na po tayo doon sa mga features na inoccupy natin ngayon, simply because they are not enclosed by the West Philippine Sea na binabanggit natin. Kaya po ako nagsisimula dyan, Mr. President. Hindi po totoo na como sinabi ng arbitral award. Wala yung 9-dash line mo, China. Totoo naman yun eh. Because China was unable to prove by historic rights na talagang nasakop niya through the 9 dash line. Pero maliban doon, walang ginawa yung arbitral award. The arbitral tribunal did not adjudicate yung pamumosisyon nila sa mga features. Hindi naman niya sinabi, China, umalis ka na dyan sa mga inoccupy mong features. Meron ba siya sinabing gano'n? Wala po. And China continues to occupy those features. Meron din tayo. Meron din ang Vietnam. Kaya po disputed ngayon eh. Kahit na po in-award ang West Philippine Sea o yung ating exclusive economic zone, it's still a disputable waters. Dahil nga, wala pa tayong coordinates na isasubmit na nire-require po sa atin. This is the whole point, Mr. President.
Yes. If we may be allowed. Mr. President, gaya ng nabanggit kanina ng ating mga kasamahan, noong 2024 na ipasa yung RA 12064 na at doon mismo dinebate, Section 14, other maritime jurisdictions, the Philippines shall exercise all other maritime rights and jurisdictions in accordance with the UNCLOS, the South China Sea Arbitration, case number 2013-19, international law and other pertinent and regulations of the Philippines. Mr. President, we beg to disagree that the coordinates are not clear, that we have not been able to determine it. We have by law, we have by administrative order, and we have by the arbitral ruling. All these should suffice, Mr. President, for us to assert that China is illegally occupying parts of our exclusive economic zone and is claiming likewise 150,000 square kilometers of our continental shelf and 381,000 square kilometers of our EEZ. I mean, that should suffice for this, at least for this resolution to be passed. For the resolution that we are now tackling be adopted, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
In addition, Mr.
unfortunately-
President, in addition, if I may, the Kalayaan Group of Islands Kalayaan is a municipality of Palawan.
Pag-asa sa barangay.
Yes. And therefore, the exclusive economic zone as defined in UNCLOS provides that it is a sea area extending up to 200 nautical miles from a coastal state's baseline. So the baseline would be the Kalayaan group and 200 nautical miles from the Kalayaan group. So I do not see how the Kalayaan Islands is outside of our exclusive economic zone. I beg to disagree, Mr. President.
Just for the record, no, the Pag-asa Island is a barangay of the Kalayaan Island Group under the province of Palawan.
Yes. And it is 445 kilometers away from Puerto Princesa.
Mr. President, the problem is under Section 2 of Republic Act 12064, which defines the West Philippine Sea as follows. The maritime zones of the Philippines on the western side of the Philippine archipelago, including the Luzon Sea and the territorial seas of Bao de Masinloc and the maritime features of the Kalayaan Island Group, shall be collectively called the West Philippine Sea. What is the problem there, Mr. President? Yun nga po kasing Pag-asa Island at saka yung Parola Island, nakasama po ng KIG, ay labas po doon sa West Philippine Sea. At ito po ay blurred by the high seas that separate them from the rest of the Kalayaan Island Group. So let me show, pwede bang pakita yung isa pang mapa? Map number 1.
Uulitin.
Ayan po, Mr. President. This is a map produced by the US-funded think tank called National Bureau of Asian Research. Dito sa mapang ito po, the area that is shaded in deep yellow is the Philippine Territorial Sea, while the area shaded in light yellow is the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf. The area shaded in blue is the high seas. On the map are small features around which circles have been drawn. Some features are inside the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, while others are in the high seas. The circles drawn around these features are the enclave territorial seas. The features and circles are in different colors to represent the state occupying them. The features occupied by the Philippines are in yellow. Diyan po makikita ninyo, Mr. President, meron po tayong occupied na features na talagang labas nga sa, kagaya ng binanggit natin kanina, labas sa ating exclusive economic zone. There are 4 features in yellow that are occupied by the Philippines but are in the high seas. Other features that are occupied by China and Vietnam that are in the high seas but they are also being claimed by the Philippines. Given this situation, how can we draw the metes and bounds of the Philippine West, the West Philippine Sea? Ito yung tinatanong ko kanina, kung gusto natin pong isama yung mga features which are outliers, meaning to say they are lying outside the exclusive economic zone, paano po tayong papayagan na gawin yun? May encroach po natin pati yung high seas. The UNCLOS, Mr. President, prohibits us from enclosing the high seas, and international tribunals have nullified boundaries that leapfrog. Hindi po natin sila pwedeng i-connecta. Kaya nga po, why even under Republic Act 12064, the limits of the West Philippine Sea cannot be drawn with precision. Yun po yung sinasabi natin. Hindi po natin magagamit yung mga batas na ginawa natin dahil meron pong problema. At makikita po ninyo yung mga features, for example, yung nandyan po sa loob ng ating West Philippine Sea. Makikita nyo yung mga circles in blue. These are occupied by other nations. Pero doon sa ating memorial na sinabit po sa arbitral tribunal, Mr. President, ang Pilipinas nag-agree na lahat po ng yan ay hindi na natin naaariin. Meaning to say, there will be reduction po yan sa ating West Philippine Sea. Ganun po, kinompromise natin eh. Basahin po natin yung award.
Yeah.
So, hindi, ang dami pong nawawala sa West Philippine Sea natin.
Mr. President, if we may, the declaration under PD 1596 that the KIG is part of Philippine territory, PD 1596 and its validity was never put in issue in the arbitration case, and the tribunal did not have any jurisdiction to rule on its validity. In other words, this is outside the issue of the award. And if there are concerns about the validity of PD 1596 and the concerns that there are certain areas outside of what has been declared as our economic zone, although prior to that was declared part of Philippine territory, then let's have legislation, remedial legislation to amend, debate it. If the good senator believes that should be part of Philippine territory and would like to amend PD 1596 or affirm it, then let's debate it on the floor by way of proposed legislation. But in the context of the arbitral ruling, Mr. President, I will again point out that this debate, no matter how lengthy, will not change the ruling, which is in our favor, and therefore we should defend and uphold it. Rather than go into a question of, wait, sandali lamang, kasi yung arbitral ruling na yun, hindi sinama yung ilang mga nasa Kalayaan Island Group. So dapat, wag natin i-recognize yung award na yan. Hindi naman po tayo
Wala naman nagsasabing hindi rin i-recognize. Raulo talaga to.
papayag doon. Hindi po ba?
Hindi po ganun ang punto natin, Mr. President. Kung sakaling tayo po ay may karapatan talaga, at meron naman talaga tayong karapatan sa ating West Philippine Sea, na sa ngayon ay ina-approximate nila na ito na nga yung ating exclusive economic zone, kinakailangan naman nating makita yung hangganan para sa ganun maipagtanggol natin ang lahat ng saganang atin. Nagbabudget tayo, binibigyan natin ang ating Department of National Defense. Ang daming mga features na wala sa ating West Philippine Sea, na wala doon sa ating exclusive economic zone. Wala namang, nandun outliers po siyang ganun. Pagkatapos, sinasabi ng 1596, atin yun, pero sabi ng arbitral tribunal, sabi ng award, sinabi na nga natin, paragraphs 573 to paragraphs 576, neither the Philippines nor China has the right to enclose that part of this Pratt list. Ibig sabihin, ninalipay niya po yun eh. So wala din yun eh. Kinakailangan nating itama lahat. Sangayon din sa UNCLOS na doon naman ay signatory tayo. Ito po yung kanina ko pa gustong ipaliwanag. Walang masama na yung ating saganang atin, pag-aari natin, madetermina natin. Halimbawa, binigyan tayo ng isang pag-aari, isang sukat ng lupa. Sinabi ng ating kaibigan, mula sa bundok na ito hanggang doon sa bundok na yun, sa'yo yan. Alam po ninyo, pag hindi natin natituluhan yan, nakuha yung kabuuan kung hanggang saan ang ating pag-aari, mahihirapan lang tayo eh. Kaya po nagkakaroon tayo ng pag-aaway, ngayon lamang po eh, nakikita na natin ang talagang pangangailangan na pag-aralan nating mabuti muna ito. Kesa sasabihin natin, gagawa ng halimbawa ng caricature ang isang Commodore natin na ilalagay niya sa nakakatuwa at pangit na itsura ang leader ng isang bansa, imbes na yun ang gawin niya, eh siguro kinakailangan muna nating i-determine with precise precision at with coordinates para sa ganun, alam na natin, maiguguhit na natin, hindi lamang sa tayo lang ang nakakaalam ng ating West Philippine Sea, pati po doon sa S-23. Ito po yung International Hydrographics Organization, matatala na yung ating West Philippine Sea. Magkakaroon na po ng coordinates, kagaya po ng pinakita natin kanina, ng South China Sea is designated by 6.1. Yun po sana yung dapat natin munang gawin.
Mr. President, just before...
With the permission of the two gentlemen, Senator
Before I
Rizal
yield the
Tiveros.
floor, Mr. President, to just
Yes,
very quickly.
yes,
Mr.
Senator
President, yung binanggit ni Commodore Tariela, dinepensahan na ng ating Department of National Defense. At
Bakit hindi didepensahan ni Gibocho Doro? Pareho silang tuta ng mga Amerikano. Raulo ka ba, Kiko? Alam ba sinasabi mo?
ng
Tingnan ka,
Armed Forces of the Philippines. Tapos ngayon, narito tayo, may Senate resolution, sumasang-ayon at sinasang-ayunan ang posisyon ng Department of National Defense at ang Armed Forces of the Philippines sa mga bitiw na salita ni Commodore Tariela. Eh hindi ba dapat susugan natin at suportahan natin at
Mali yun. Mali yun. Pagka sinabi nilang adik ang ating presidente sa bansang China kung ano-anong ginawa nilang larawan, okay lang yun. Gusto mo ba yun? Kunyari, ginawang karikature si Leni Robredo dyan sa China. Lutang. Ikaw, maching. Si Leila Niman, kumakain na sa okay lang yun.
rally behind our armed forces, our Department of National Defense, rather than kowtow, not kowtow, but rather than give China the benefit of the doubt as regards their motivations in attacking one of our men in uniform. We have to defend and support the Department of National Defense and the Armed Forces of the Philippines. It's as simple as that, Mr. President.
Hindi ganun kasimple yun. Hindi ganun kasimple yun. Yung mga opisyal na sinasabi mo na binabanatan ng China ay nagpapakasangkapan sa Amerika at hindi interes ng sambayan ng Pilipino ay tinutulak ng mga siraulo niyan, Kiko Pang. At alam mo yan, Kiko Pangs. Kiko Pangs naman.
Yes, with the permission of the two gentlemen. Senator Rizal Tiveros is...
Ayun na nga mga kababayan, next challenger, Rizal Tiveros. Mamaya na ho natin balagbagin yan. So Luis, maraming salamat po sa pag-support sa PhD.